I understand you want to discuss international relations theories with me. What would you like to discuss?
Yes, that is right. You suggested that realism, liberalism and constructivism are complete nonsense. How can you say that? They explain everything about state behavior.
They are the only theories widely taught in American universities, but they are regarded as a joke by most European academic establishments. They are at least 40 years out of date.
But how else can you explain the behavior of other countries towards the United States? It is obvious they are balancing or bandwagoning for their national interest.
What do you mean by national interest? I think you are just quoting a journal article at me.
Whatever the state must do that is in their best interests. If their interest is to appease the United States, then that is what they will do. That is the national interest.
It sounds like you use national interest to mean anything you want it to mean. No matter what behavior they have, you rationalize it as national interest. I feel you have not thought about this issue deeply.
By national interest, I mean the state will always prioritize its own security above everything else. If they have two options, such as help the United States or not help the United States, then they will always choose the option that ensures their survival.
I feel you are quoting an undergraduate textbook to me. It is difficult to apply this simple option A or option B vision of decision-making. The simplicity of the explanation disguises the fundamentally false choices it offers.
What do you mean?
Is it more in a country's national interest to torture terrorists, or is it better not to?
Obviously it is better to torture. You must put morality aside, since ultimately it would be immoral to allow the state to be destroyed if you did not torture. This is realism. The torture is the only way that can provide the information that can help protect the state.
You obviously have watched too much Fox News, but let's pretend you are right that if you torture someone it can help to provide information of use. Think of the damage done to your country's reputation. Other countries may no longer help you and your security may be damaged. If you do not torture, you can gain a reputation as a bastion of freedom and all the other states may unite around you.
But you have to do what is in your national interest.
This phrase national interest seems to be an empty message that signifies always favoring the simple and immediate over the long term and the social. It favors selfishness over altruistic behavior, even though altruistic behavior can make you very powerful.
How do you know what I mean by national interest?
Your theories that you learned in first semester do not talk about reputations. Neo-realism thinks of states as billiard balls in an anarchic space. The billiard balls do not have characters, and so cannot have reputations.
But neoliberalism recognizes exchanges as bringing mutual support through an iterative process of working together. It uses game theory and other ideas to show why one option is chosen and not the other.
That theory ignores the very essence of the problem. You have to ask what is the character of the agent making the decisions in the process of making mutually beneficial exchanges. To be frank, the presumption in the game theory is the individuals are all Americans.
But states do not have a character.
You think that because you have never asked yourself what a state actually is. What is a state? Or more accurately, what is a nation-state?
A nation-state is a state that self-identifies as deriving its political legitimacy from serving as a sovereign entity for a country as a sovereign territorial unit.
That answer is so circular in logic that I find it difficult to respond to. It is also confusing. I can imagine it was chosen in order to bamboozle readers.
It is from Wikipedia. We all know what a nation-state is. Look at this flag. That is the nation-state of Libya.
That is just a flag. A nation-state is constituted by the belief of a mass of humans in an imagined community who then assert a territorial control. You cannot actually see a nation-state. It is all in the mind.
This sounds very esoteric.
Esoteric. You probably think that if an idea is too complicated it is a bad theory. That is what realism and liberalism believe. They were invented in a time when theories were supposed to be simple to be good.
But it is a good thing.
Not if it explains nothing. If you understand that the nation is constituted by a load of people, then you can understand that it will have a character, and this will determine the decisions it makes.
But realism and liberalism show us how the United States behaves.
There can barely be a sentient being on the planet who thinks those theories explain United States behavior in invading Iraq, Afghanistan, Panama, Grenada, etc.
Obviously, they did it for national interest.
I have warned you not to use that meaningless circle jerk of an expression. It displays an astonishing lack of insight. Americans behave for a variety of reasons based on how they see themselves in the world. One reason is they genuinely feel they have a role for spreading good. Realism and liberalism cannot predict such actions. So theorists that believe these theories nowadays rail against state behavior. They have reversed the purpose of their theories. They no longer claim they predict state behavior, but instead they claim they should be used as a prescription for what states should do.
But isn't that good? Wouldn't they have stopped the United States from invading Iraq or Afghanistan?
Actually, the theories are so vacuous that they can be used to argue any position. They are particularly useful for censoring opinions that are not obsessed by the states, such as concerns for human rights, the plight of refugees, the terrible poverty of the poorest 1 billion people of the world.
So what do you recommend I do?
International relations in American universities is a trained incapacity. Your brain has been molded into mush by the subject you study. You need to study in Europe to have a stronger grasp of the world as it is today. Maybe then you can better shape the world you command. In the meantime, do not use any empty phrases like engagement, satisfice, encirclement, bandwagoning.
Blah 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 blah. This is typical of a European. Just because you lost your empire, you'd be speaking German now without us.
Some of us are speaking German now. We are not monolinguals like you. It allows us to see beyond the claims of realism and liberalism. Your grasp of history is also revealing. It was Germany that declared war on America and not the other way around. By the time America entered the war, the British Empire had weathered the German attack. You are little more than a mopping up operation.
You keep changing the names of the theories. You said realism, liberalism, constructivism, neo-realism, neo-liberalism. I don't really think you understand them at all.
The theories all rest on the same flawed epistemology. It doesn't make any difference what you call them. They are not really theories actually. They are political ideologies and tools of rhetorical persuasion and many other things, but not theories.
Pisthole what?
Epistemology. It just means the central basis of your belief in the presumptions you make is flawed. Ask yourself, how do you know that which you claim to know? How, for example, do you know the United States exists?
That is easy. Every newspaper I read, every TV station I watch, every friend I speak to say it exists.
Can you point to it?
No.
Exactly, it is not some natural given of life. It is a historically contingent set of accreted knowledges. Why it does what it does and how you think it should do what it does is heavily dependent on historically accumulated power bases. You always must ask why this and not some other way.
Now I am confused.
That is good. I am trying to show you the complexity in the world that you had not previously noticed. If you are confused, then my explanation has been useful.